So how threatening are the Ravens? We tend to come back to this question, and we really don't know the answer because the answer can't be delivered until January and or February. Great regular season team. Great quarterback during the regular season. How threatening are they? They appear to be threatening, but then it doesn't matter during the regular season. We want to wait till the postseason. But what we're seeing so far, they go to 8-4. They beat a good Charger team on the road, and the Ravens beat the Chargers 30-23. Derrick Henry, 140 yards. And you also have to look at the Chargers. The Chargers feel like a good story, a nice story, but I don't think we attach the same value or, I guess, adjectives of, man, they're dangerous. They're going to be a tough out. I don't know that. They don't have the offensive firepower. And if the defense doesn't shut you down, I just don't think they're going to win. And I'm talking about winning playoff games. But I like what I see with Harbaugh. He's tried to bring Michigan mentality to the Chargers. I think he's done a pretty good job so far. But, I mean, you win those games. It's a home game. If you want to prove that you're a playoff team, you win those games. But they dropped to 7-4. All righty, Seton. Let's get started. First hour. What are you thinking?
Well, we have here from Paulie. We've got the Baltimore Ravens are clear Super Bowl contenders or underwhelming.
Okay.
Seems fair.
All right. Yes, Paul, do you want to add?
Yeah, this goes back to the morning meeting. We were kind of riffing on the game last night. And I got done watching that game, and I felt, if I was a Ravens fan, I'd feel pretty good about it. Ran the ball well. Lamar didn't have to do a ton. The defense, I thought, played pretty well in slowing down the Chargers, not stopping. I felt good about it. Then Seton goes, no, they didn't look good at all. And I can't tell if I'm right or he's right.
Well, you might both be right that, yeah, they did look pretty good, but let's look at big picture. The defense isn't good.
Yeah. No Roquan last night, but
it doesn't matter. They're not a good defense. Now, they are a really good offense, but eventually you got to lean on your defense come playoff time. And I don't think they can lean on their defense the way they have before. Yes, Seton.
I know that's like my big problem with the Ravens is their defense. They missed Roquan Smith, but he's not going to change the whole the total output. Their offense is always great, but you feel like they should have more for some reason. Even no matter how many yards Derrick Henry runs for, I'm kind of like, man, he probably could have gotten more though. Or Lamar Jackson, it feels like they should win every game 72-70.
That'd be awesome.
Baltimore has struggled on defense. They've given up more than 24 points a game. They're ranked near the bottom against the pass. They did have 4 sacks. They limited Justin Herbert to under 220 yards passing. Now, if they do that, now all of a sudden you got my attention. If not, they're just a fun curiosity here. And I know we're going to do the same thing to Lamar we did to Giannis and we did to the Joker. We can't give you another MVP. You got to win a title. Yes, I understand there's like voter fatigue, but it's a regular season award. And if you're the best player, the most valuable player during the regular season, then you deserve it. I don't grade you on a curve and go, you're good during the regular season, but can't do it that way. I know we want our quarterbacks to win the big game. You got to have one Super Bowl on your resume. He has to get to a Super Bowl. Just get there. And I think maybe that would put people at ease that Lamar Jackson, I think you probably still have people going, gosh, he's a Hall of Famer, right? I'm thinking, yes. If he wins a third MVP, like you're talking about dominance in a small window playing at the same time as Patrick Mahomes. Now, Mahomes wins Super Bowls. That puts you legacy status, all-time status. That gives you GOAT status. Lamar Jackson won't have that. He might win 4 MVPs. He could be like Rodgers, but Rodgers won a Super Bowl. And once you win that Super Bowl, it's like we move on to the next topic. But we won't move on until Lamar wins the Super Bowl, at least gets to a Super Bowl. Is it fair? Probably not, but it's the most important position in all of sports, and we give them way too much credit and way too much blame. Is it all on Lamar Jackson? It's not. But a lot of it is. When you win, the quarterback gets the credit. When you lose the quarterback, we start there. It shouldn't be that way all the time because you can look at play calling. You could look at, Baltimore went one-dimensional last year. You're at home against Kansas City. And we said the same thing last year. Kansas City is at its most vulnerable. And then you have this year. They're even more vulnerable. And if you don't get them now, are you going to get them? Is Baltimore? Is Buffalo? Houston? Like, who's going to get them? Are they vulnerable? Absolutely. But you're vulnerable, too, in the last 2 minutes when Patrick Mahomes has the football. If he gets the ball last, it's over. So they're vulnerable for all but 2 minutes of the game, it feels like. And then you're vulnerable if he gets the football. What else do you have today, Seton O'Connor?
I've got probably the greatest gift thus far of the holiday season.
Okay.
Poll questions from Todd Fritz.
Oh, okay. All right. All right. Okay.
Well, he's got a similar poll question to Paul, but slightly different. A more accurate overreaction off Monday Night Football would be, see, I told you the Chargers were a fraud, or the Ravens are going to the Super Bowl. These are overreactions off of last night.
Okay, I'll give you mine first. I would say the Ravens are going to the Super Bowl would be an overreaction. I would say that. Todd, do you want to answer your own poll question?
I'm going to go with, see, I told you the Chargers were fraud.
Okay.
Because they had a chance to be 8-3 in a standalone game at home, and now they're 7-4, just a half a game ahead of my Broncos, and I don't know where the Bolts are going the rest of the way.
Seton, you've been in on the Chargers. Are they frauds?
No, I'm still in.
Okay.
I think it would be an overreaction to say the Ravens are going to the Super Bowl.
All right. Marvin, what about you?
I'm in.
In on
The Chargers.
being a fraud?
No. On them being good.
Well,
Like a legit team.
then what's your answer to the poll question? The overreaction, Todd?
Which is a more accurate overreaction? And I may have gotten my own poll question wrong based on the way I described the Chargers. Now that I think about it, I don't think I made any sense with my description. I would be going with the Ravens based on how I described that the Chargers are in trouble. Because the more accurate overreaction is, I told you the Chargers were a fraud. The Ravens are going to the Super Bowl.
Oh, so wait a minute. So when you say an accurate overreaction,
that means which one do you think is more right to say?
it means
Which is what I think I got wrong.
so it's not really an overreaction if you think it's right? Right. Or no?
To me, the way I wrote it,
okay.
and I might have made this very confusing. Which one is more fair to say?
I think I know
Chargers are a
less.
fraud or the Ravens are going to the Super Bowl? Which is a more fair comment?
By the way, this is one of 4 questions that Todd has sent in today.
Which is a more reasonable thing to believe? The Chargers are a fraud, the Ravens are going to the Super Bowl.
Which is a more reasonable thing.
Which one is more accurate? What does reasonable mean?
Of those two statements, which is a more reasonable thing to come across with after last night's outcome?
Okay, but you're
Which
saying
one
it's
is
a
more reasonable?
reasonable overreaction. So you're saying it's an overreaction, but it's more true?
What's a more accurate overreaction? What's a more accurate overreaction means which is a more reasonable thing to deduce from what happened last night.
Even though it's an overreaction off of last night's game, I still believe it's true. Which
I look at these as both overreactions.
I
Which one
think-
is less of an overreaction?
Holy smokes. We're 12 minutes in.
It wasn't meant to be this complicated.
Okay.
Which one is a more fair thing to believe off of last night's game?
Okay. I think it's an overreaction to say after watching the Ravens, they're going to the Super Bowl. Did I answer it
I
correctly?
think so, yeah. Which is a more fair thing to believe? Is it more reasonable to say the Ravens are going to go to the Super Bowl just because they won last night? Or is it more reasonable to say the Chargers are a fraud because they lost last night?
So, Dan, if you believe more in the Ravens, then you pick the Chargers.
But is that an overreaction? But it's reasonable.
Right. That clears that up.
Marvin?
What is more likely?
Do
The
you
Chargers
think
are a
that-
fraud or
okay,
the Ravens are
okay,
going to the Super Bowl?
okay.
How about that?
Do you think the Chargers are a fraud more than you do the Ravens are going to the Super Bowl?
Yes.
That's good.
I love the way you said that.
Yeah. I'm going to wait, after the commercial break for your other poll questions. I think I got to I think I have to process this one
So I
first.
think I was right now that I think about it. Going with the Chargers being a fraud, that's the more reasonable thing to believe than the Ravens. I think it's more likely the Ravens go to the Super Bowl than the Chargers do anything significant the rest of the way. Back to you.